So I'm behind on this one. But it is exactly what I was talking about a little while ago. I talked about the status quo and how it is a major problem in comic books. And you know what? This is exactly what I'm fucking talking about. So what's up, guys? Recently, I have been running across my backlog. I have a ridiculous amount of books. In fact, I showed you my backlog in a video not way too long ago. I'll post the link if you want to check out. I was just sorting my backlog into categories so that I could start actually reading it and things like that and keeping things together. And during that video, I talked all kinds of comic stuff. And while I was doing it, I did happen to point out a lot of backlog things. And then I did a video about manga and comics and how the manga industry has problems too. It has just as many problems, different problems, yes, but it has problems. It's not perfect. And a lot of the people that are kind of running away from the comic book industry to move to manga, a lot of their reasoning, in terms of the people that I talk to, a lot of their reasoning keeps coming down to, well, you know, manga treats its creators better, and there's better stories in manga, and this and that, and yada yada. And you're all entitled to your opinion, but sometimes we're ignoring the issues that exist with manga because, you know, that's not us. We don't have to worry about what they're going through. It's not us. And yes, I knew doing that video was going to run some comments, some people basically being like, oh, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about because I love manga and rah. And I knew I was going to get those, and I got those. I got some of those comments, and I loved it. I loved every second of it because literally, that you could probably find it, whatever. There was a comment on there that basically started, "Listen, old man," and then he started trying to explain the manga industry to me, and he took issue with the fact that I was naming books that were older books, and that I happened to mention some things that Toriyama went through, and that was my main reference point to talk about how stressful the industry could be, even though I brought up Berserk, and even though that's an older book, it was still producing books. Like, you get the idea. So look, today I finished the Superior Spider-Man. And the end of that book, no joke, pissed me off. It pissed me off. Look, I'd read the 12-issue run. It's not much, but I was behind. Okay? And because I was behind, I was starting on issue literally 4, and I was reading, and I was enjoying it, and I was getting into it, and I was liking the Superior Octopus. Well, Superior Spider-Man, because he'd moved on from the Superior Octopus stuff. And I was legitimately enjoying his development. I was legitimately enjoying where it was going, and I liked to see him interact with other characters, and I liked the fact that even Peter Parker was willing to give him that chance. The two Spider-Men came together and did a couple things together, and all this stuff was working out, and they were finally covering the issues that happened when he had a hold of Peter Parker's body, and they were finally covering issues with Anna Marie, and everything about it was just so good. But we can't have that. We can't have that because, like all the time, comic books, and this is one thing, because don't look at me like I'm taking sides. A lot of people do that. They say, this guy talking about comic books, he doesn't like manga. That's bullshit. I love manga. I love manga, and this is one thing. Amongst many other things, there are cons, and there are benefits to either side that you choose. I tend to read both sides depending on what characters interest me at what time. But manga does one thing that's Ridiculously important. It allows its characters to evolve, to change, to better, and it doesn't revert them to the status quo. Vegeta, and yes, I'm going back to Dragon Ball Z, and there's a reason I constantly reference Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z set a standard for the entire manga industry that is still followed to this day, so if you take an issue with the fact that I love Dragon Ball Z and consider it one of the greatest mangas even by today's standards, then don't listen to me. Okay? There. If Vegeta or Piccolo or Krillin had been forced to revert back to the status quo, we would not have got those characters. Just like the superior Spider-Man. But you know what? Comic books don't work like manga. In manga, we develop a character, we tell a storyline, we push them to the area where we need them to be or want them to be, and we continue that storyline for better or for worse. Spoiler warning, L dies. The story continues. We don't revert it back to the status quo, 10 books later and be like, oh, L is back because supernatural rebirth stuff. We don't do that. We don't do that in manga. That is why manga often does tell stories that in the long run do turn out to actually be better in some cases. I love comic books. But you gotta let these characters evolve and move forward. And that was one of the things I was talking about leaving the superheroes behind. If you get yourself involved in comic books and you stay to one area, comic book superheroes, you're gonna run into this problem. They have to revert. They have to go back to step one. And that's exactly what I'm talking about right now. The Superior Octopus was doing everything right. I keep saying that. I liked the Superior Octopus design. But the Superior Spider-Man was doing everything right. It was literally evolving a character that was going to be something legitimately interesting for years to come. But we can't do that. Because we have to have Dr. Octopus. He has to be a bad guy. He has to fight Spider-Man. So Norman Osborn appears. And just like in the first run of the Superior Spider-Man, he could not fight Norman Osborn. And when Norman Osborn became an issue, he gave up the body back to Peter Parker. Wonderful storyline. Yes, it reverted us back to the status quo, but it was good to have Parker back, and it was good to see how Parker would deal with those issues by reverting back to the status quo, by the way. And then it was interesting to see the clone stuff that happened, and Octavius make a new body and very much become his own spider character, the Superior Octopus, which then led in to the Superior Spider-Man, where Octavius started doing right. He went back to being Spider-Man and started doing right, and his character had evolved, and his ideas had changed, and he was developing relationships, and he was becoming interesting, and then because evil, random, side universe frickin' Norman Osborn shows up, they start fighting, and once again, Octavius starts losing, and then he's like, I can't win because he's too good. He's just too good for me. I can't win because I'm not the man I used to be. So he calls up Mephisto. He makes a deal with the devil. He gives up every part of the storyline development that we have got thus far, destroying the Superior Spider-Man completely, reverting back to Dr. Octopus, fighting that Norman Osborn, and then throwing the costume away and walking off into the sunset to once again be Dr. Octavius. And I hate it. I hate it! Look, we need comic books to allow these characters to frickin' evolve. They need to evolve. Storylines need to move forward, and we need to see different ideas, and we need to let those ideas play out in the long run so that we can get better stories. Good guys sometimes become bad guys. Bad guys sometimes become good guys. And sometimes you do walk the in-between. And sometimes different guys die, and sometimes different characters may come back depending on the circumstances here and there. Yes, Dragon Ball is also one of the things that is famous for this, and so is Naruto. They kill a character off, and then for whatever reason, they get a character back. It gets old. It gets old. I hate that shit. But that is because that shit is returning back to the status quo. When they kill Goku, they bring Goku back. When they kill Krillin, they bring Krillin back. When they kill Kakashi, they bring Kakashi back. When they kill Guy, they bring Guy back. That gets old. It gets so old. It gets so old to see the way that these stories revert back to the status quo. And usually manga is 1,000 times better about this. Because they do allow characters to evolve and change, like Neji. Neji's a complete friggin' asshat. But as time goes, you start to understand why, and he grows as a person, and that personality changes. And if you looked at the character where he started and where the character is, they're not the same guy. That's not true in comic books. Once again, Dr. Octavius is Dr. Octavius. And you know what? I would have been more than fine with Dr. Octopus never being a thing again. I'm honest. I'm being 100% honest. Even if he was your favorite villain, you know what? Piccolo was some people's favorite villain. Vegeta was some people's favorite villain. But those characters, they evolved. Some characters, some people have favorite villains that never come back. They die, and we get rid of them, and we move on in the world of manga, and comic books can't seem to do this. Not very often, anyway. And once again, I hate this decision. I hate this decision. Because now, there is no superior octopus. There is no superior Spider-Man. And that storyline is gone. And now it's pointless. And once again, we get the twiddly thumbs, evil mustache twirling villain back so that he can fight Parker and crush Parker, and Parker will find some way to defeat him, and then we'll just repeat cycle, repeat cycle, repeat cycle, repeat cycle, repeat cycle. And it's quite honestly this kind of shit that is driving me out of comics slowly but surely. My comic book poll list is not very impressive right now, guys. It's the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger comics, Red Sonja, both the Red Sonja comics that are coming out, Vampirella, Savage Avengers, Conan the Barbarian, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I think that's it. Unless something is just not registering. Oh, and Wonder Woman. Like 7 books. And that's enough for me right now. That's enough for me because I'm just tired of watching the status quo reset like it just did in the Superior Spider-Man, ending a character that I was legitimately interested in and looking forward to seeing it develop. And now it's gone. It's gone, and it's irritating in a way that is hard to explain. And quite frankly, I'm not going to try to explain. They ruined this character. They ruined this chance by playing the same game that they always play. Just like Lex Luthor can't be any more complicated than evil businessman. Just like Superman will always be the Boy Scout. Just like Batman will always be the rich guy detective. Any change we make, we're just going back to the status quo. And quite frankly, it's old. It's old to the point that it is literally destroying a foundation for me. And it's the reason that I've explored other comic books as of recently in much more interested detail, because I'm tired of the superhero status quo. It's time that it dies. It is. It's time that it dies. Either that, or reboot the entirety of the continuity so we can just start again. If that's basically what they keep doing anyway. Just let's get the reboots and retcons in here. Just fuck it. Every 5 years, just reset the entirety because it's what we're going to do anyway. And rather than having all this continuity just to get back to Dr. Octopus, why even fucking bother in the first place? He should have just stayed Dr. Octopus, and 5 years later, we should have just told the whole fucking story again with a different take on Dr. Octopus because it's a reboot and who really gives a shit? That's enough out of me. I'm out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.